You can see what I have. So can you see the shape of our waistcoat? That is really looking good. So the next step is to plot the dart. In plotting the dart, I will be inserting 4 inches on the waist level. So which is here. If you don't know what to use, you can just measure what you have on the hemline and get the midpoint. If I want to make use of this, I will be having like 4.75. So whatever you have, subtract half of an inch from it. But because I've taken this measurement on the wearer, the distance between the chest, each chest is 8 inches. Okay, for female wears it is called a bust span measurement. That is the distance between each nipples. I took the measurements and what I have is 8 inches, so that is why I'm using 4 inches. But if you don't take these measurements on your clients, on the hemline, just measure what you have over there. Measure what you have, then divide it by 2, then subtract half of an inch from it. So whatever you have, whatever you get, use it as the dart point measurement. So here as well, I will insert the same 4 inches. On the chest level, the real chest level, please take note, real chest level, not the armhole point. So I will insert the same 4 inches. So the 4 inches falls on the neck width line. You can see what I have. So I will just connect the 3 points together straight down. Okay, then I will just insert my darts. Don't forget I've added my dart intake allowance, which is half of an inch. So this is going to be 0.25 on both sides. 0.25 here, 0.25 here. Then on the chest level, I will come down by 2 inches. So your dart intake must not get to the chest level so that it will not tamper with the measurement of that area. So then I'll be connecting the 2 points to the 2 inches point like so. Okay, so this is what I have. You can see. Now the next step is to extend this dart downward. Now, when I was making tutorial on how to make a safari suit, I explained into details how you can what you can do with your darts. So which is called dart manipulation in female wears. So you can either cut out your darts or pick your darts. Now I will be connecting this dart downward. So on the end line, I will take 1/4 of an inch on both sides as well. Then I will take this straight down. Okay, so this is what I have. So this is what I have for my dart. You can see the way I plotted my dart. So the next step is to shape the hemline of the waistcoat. So in order to have that beautiful shape that is usually on a waistcoat. In doing this, I will extend this line outward to the edge of the pattern paper. Then the waistline as well. Okay, so this is not something serious, it's just to give the lower parts a very good shape. And it is not a must. If you want yours to go like this, you don't want to shape it, you want it to have like a rectangular shape, so you can leave your pattern like so. You don't need to shape it. So here I will be measuring 5 inches upward. So you can see what I have below the waist level is almost 2 inches. Okay, so I can just maintain 2 inches below the waist level, which is here. So I cross this out. So that is 2 inches below the waist level. Then I will be connecting from this point to this point. So what I have here, the measurement I have here, will be transferred to the edge of the pattern paper. So I use this much for the button allowance because it is a double-breasted waistcoat. If I'm making a single-breasted waistcoat, I don't need to use up to 3.5 inches. I use 3.5 inches because it is a double-breasted waistcoat. So now I will be connecting this point to the dart point I have here. Like so. So I'm ignoring the 2 inches I have on the center front. So I'm maintaining the one I have at the edge of the pattern paper. So I'll be connecting the 2 inches point to the first dart point I have towards the center front, and I will make a straight line. Okay, so this is what I have. So the next step is to shape the side of the waistcoat. So now in shaping the side, I will take the measurement I have from the waist point to the waistcoat hemline. So here I have 7 inches, then I will get the midpoint, which is 3.5 inches. Then I will be connecting this 3.5 inches to the next dart point to the side. You can see this is the dart point that is towards the center front, while this is towards the side of the pattern. So I'll be connecting this point to the dart point towards the side of the pattern. So this is going to be a slight curve. So I'll be connecting these like so, using the slightly curved side of my ruler. Okay, so this is what I have for the shape of my waistcoat. It depends on the design you are working with. So this is the design I'm having for this particular waistcoat. Now everything is set, the neckline, the armhole, the darts, the shaping, and every other thing. So the last step is to add seam allowances on my pattern. This is optional. You can either add your seam allowances on the pattern or you add it on your fabric. But if you know you will be keeping your pattern for future purpose, do not add your seam allowance on the pattern. Or if you know you are making this pattern for someone else to make or to construct the waistcoat or the style, do not add your seam allowances. But as for me, I will be adding my seam allowances all around the pattern. Half of an inch of seam allowance is needed around the neckline. So don't forget, this is the shape of the neckline, the U shape. So that is what I'm having here. So that is for the neckline. Okay, another thing that I need to tell you guys is, you can see the distance I have from here to here is much, because your U shape also varies. You can have different design for your U shape. So you can have a U shape that is completely round at the lower part, and you can have a U shape that is stylishly round at the lower parts. If you want to have a U shape that is completely round at the lower parts, so please do not use something that is up to this, so your curve must not be too far from the edge of the pattern. Okay, so what we have here is 1/2 inch. I'll mark 1/2 inch away because 1/2 inch will be used in finishing the edges. So the real measurement for the button allowance is 3 inches. Okay, so from here you can, from the 1/2 inch, you can measure 1.5. You can see what I have there, 1.5. Then pick your connection from the 1.5 inches like so. So what you'll be having here, will be different from what I drafted here. So it all depends on your preference. But as for me, I'll be maintaining this. This is button allowance. It's going to cover up parts of the center front. So I'll be adding my seam allowance of 1/2 inch all around the neckline. Okay, on the armhole, 1/2 inch is needed. On the shoulder line, 1/2 inch is needed. By the side, I will add 1 inch. At the lower part, I will add 1 inch as seam allowance. So that is all. So guys, now I will be drafting the back panel. In drafting the back panel, I will start with the neckline. I've extended my vertical lines towards the side. You can see, so here I have the starting point. So this is the chest level, this is the waist level, this is the waistcoat length, and this line is the line I used in constructing the armhole. Okay, so I have a straight line drawn out here, which I label as a CB. So that is the center back line. So all measurements I will be taking will be starting on this line. So now I will be inserting the neck width measurement, which is 4 inches. It has to be the same with the front panel. So which is here. Then I will insert half of the back measurement. Excuse me. Half of the back measurement is 8.5 inches. Then on the chest level, I will insert the same 8.5. So what I'll be doing now is to construct the armhole. So I'll be constructing the armhole the same way I constructed armhole for the front panel. So guys, I've drafted the armhole. As you can see, this is what I have for the armhole. So I did this the exact way I drafted the front panel, but the only difference is what I have at this midpoint, I reduced it by 1/4 inch. So instead of 1.5 inches, which I used for the front armhole, here I used 1 inch and 1/4. That is 1.25. So that is the only difference. Now we proceed in drafting the neckline. Now I have my neck width measurements measured out, which is 4 inches. Then for the neck depth, I will be using 1.5. So I use 1.5 based on the design of the waistcoat. So this has to do with the design you are working with. In my previous video on how to make a waistcoat, I used 3 inches based on the design of that waistcoat. But for this particular one, I don't want the back to be that low, so I'm using 1.5 inches, which is here. Okay, let me use 2 inches because I want this to fall below the shirt collar. So I'll be using 2 inches. Then from this point also, I will measure the same 2 inches downward from the neck width point. Then I will connect it together to have a perfect straight line. Okay, so here I will insert 4 inches. 4 inches, then I'll connect the 2 points together like so in order to have a perfect straight line. So that is just the reason for doing this. Okay, so here is the center. From the center I will measure 1.5 inches inward like so. Then I will be constructing the back neckline. Okay, so this is what I have for the back neckline. So now we will move to the construction excuse me. Now we will move to the construction of the side seam. In constructing the side seam, I will be inserting the waist measurement. I took the measurement I have on the front panel. So I have 9 inches on the waistline. So I will be inserting the same 9 inches. So this 9 inches is together with that allowance. So I have it here. Then on the waistcoat length, I measured what I have for the front panel. I have 10 inches. Initially, I have 9.5 inches, but I later remember that I did not have that allowance of half of an inch, which I picked on the hemline. So I've added that on my front panel. So that makes it 10 inches. So if you are wondering how I arrive at 10 inches. Okay, so from the center front line, I will measure my 10 inches. So which is here. Then I will connect the 2 points together like so. Then for the side, I'm making use of the same ruler I used in connecting the side. So that is connection from the chest level to the waist level, just a slight curve. Okay, so you can see what I have. So now the next step is to plot the dart. So I'll be plotting the dart the same way I plotted that on the front panel. So from the center back, 4 inches. So here as well, 4 inches on the hemline, 4 inches. Then on the chest level, 4 inches. Okay, then I'll make this a straight line. Okay, then on both sides, I will measure 1/4 of an inch. So 1/4 of an inch here, 1/4 of an inch here. On the hemline as well, 1/4 of an inch on both sides, 1/4 of an inch here, 1/4 of an inch here. Then on the chest level, I will come down by 1 inch. Okay, so which is exactly on the armhole point, which is here. Okay, then I will be connecting the 2 points to the 1 inch. The back dart is usually longer than the front dart, so that is why I used 1 inch for the back dart. So I came down by 1 inch on the back dart. Then from the waist to the hemline, straight down. After plotting the darts, the next step is to reduce the length of the back pattern. This is because the length of the waistcoat must not be too long at the back, so this will be done only at the center back. I will not tamper with the measurement I have by the side because it has to match up with the length I have for the front panel. the two are coming together when we get to the construction level. So what I'll be doing is I'll be subtracting excuse me, I will be subtracting 2 inches away from the length of the center back. This is the waistcoat length. So from that point I came up by 2 inches. So which means from the waist level, the distance I have there is about 5 inches from the waist level. So if I take this measurement from the starting point, I have 22 inches, which is not bad, which is okay. Okay, so this is 22 inches. Then I will take the same 22 inches by this side. 22 inches, like so. Then I will extend it outward. I will have it as a straight line. I will have it as a straight line like so. Now this is the new length for the back panel. So I'm not using this as a length anymore. Okay, so the next step is to shape the side. I need to shape the side of the back panel in order to match up with the shape I have on the front panel, because the two are coming together when we get to the construction level. Okay, so what I did was to measure 3.5 inches. Okay, from here to here, this was the length of the pattern before now, which is 7 inches, and I got the midpoint. The midpoint is 3.5 inches. You can see I have it here. So this is what I did on the front panel. So I'm doing the same thing on the back panel as well. So now I will be connecting this point to this point. So not connection from here to here again, because this is no more in use for the back panel. So after getting this point, then I will be connecting this to the dart point using the slightly curved side of my curve ruler. Like so. So you can see what I'm having. So this is the pattern for the back. So all these are not in use. This line, these not in use, these are not in use. So this is what I will be cutting out for the back panel. So guys, so far so good. We are done with the drafting of a double-breasted waistcoat. So the front is ready and the back is ready as well. The last step is to add seam allowances around the pattern, just as I did on the front panel. 1/2 inch on the neckline, 1/2 inch on the shoulder line, 1/2 inch on the armhole, 1 inch by the side, 1 inch on the hemline. Then on the center back, this is optional. If your fabric is going to be on fold, you don't need any allowance at the center back. But if you want to pick a dart, that is, you want to remove bulge at the center back, if you are shaping the center back, you have to add 1/2 inch for joining the pieces together when you get to the construction level. Now, when do you need to shape your center back? If you know you'll be making use of fabric all through, fabric for both front and the back panels, make sure you shape the center back of your pattern. But if you'll be making use of lining, you can just leave it like so. Let your center back be on fold. But for me, I'll be leaving it like so because this back is going to be a lining, not a fabric. Thank you guys for watching this video to this point. Meet me in the next episode of this tutorial, where I will be cutting this out on fabric and also put it together to make an elegant double-breasted waistcoat. Till then, always do remember, there is no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs.